Elizabeth, thank you very much for joining us for the wind down. You are talking at Henley Literary Festival this evening. So could you just tell us a little bit about your book, Magpie, please?
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate a pun so much. The wind down is not only the best name, but the best concept, because I get to drink this delicious wine. And my book, Magpie, which I'm talking at the Henley Literary Festival about, is my first novel in 4 years. And I've got to be quite careful how I talk about it because there is a big old twist in the middle. But it opens with a woman called Marissa, who's in her late 20s. She's gone through all the dispiriting online dating, and she's finally met someone who she really, really likes, who seems to tick every single one of her boxes. He's called Jake. He seems decent, straightforward and kind. And quite quickly they decide to move in together. And quite quickly they decide to start trying for a family. At which stage the reader thinks, is this all moving a bit too fast? And Jake's business starts going a bit badly, and so they have to take in a lodger to help pay the rent. And the lodger is called Kate, and she seems to take quite a suspicious level of interest in Jake and Marissa's lives. And so it's really about what happens from that point forward. And the themes that I'm looking at in the book are fertility, journeys to motherhood, what it means to be a parent, as well as mental illness and competitiveness, jealousy, and ultimately solidarity between women. So those are all the things I put into the mix.
It is fantastic. I'm reading it at the minute, and I thought that I'm like, right, I've sussed this out, I know what's going to happen, and then it happened, and I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
That makes me very happy, because I pride myself as a reader on being able to spot a twist a mile off, and so I wanted to make this one really, really good. Yeah. And thus far, no one that I've heard of has spotted the twist.
Fantastic. So, what's your writing process? You said it's the first novel that you've written in 4 years. Yeah. Is it? Do you have a process that you go through and stick to each time, or is it always different?
It's always different, and it's always predicated on what else is going on in my life at the time. So I am also a journalist on a day-to-day basis, and I do a podcast, and so those are other things that I have to fit into my diary. And I used to write fiction in and around those other things. And I used to write novels sort of in my lunch break, a kind of full-time job on a Sunday newspaper and stuff. I used to go to Costa Coffee to write my first 2 novels. And then I went freelance, and so my time was a bit more my own. But with Magpie, it totally flipped on its head because lockdown happened. So I'd written about 15,000 words of Magpie before the first national lockdown was announced. And I normally like to write in cafes, and obviously that went out the window. So it took me a while to get used to these new parameters. And basically what happened that really helped me was that I found coffee shop sounds on YouTube. So it made me feel like I was surrounded by other people, even though I wasn't. And my process in lockdown, I had the blessing of an empty diary, as so many of us did. And so I got used to writing at the same time every day, sequentially, which I don't normally do. So I wrote from 5 to 7 every evening with the YouTube coffee shop sounds on.
Once you're switched off and you're putting your feet up with a glass of wine, what is it that you enjoy the most?
I love a New World Pinot Noir, specifically a kind of Californian Pinot Noir. I love the full-bodied smoothness, and also the fact that that particular kind of taste reminds me of a very happy time in my life. I lived in LA for 3 months at the end of 2015, and it was a time of real self-discovery for me and discovery of the beauty of a New World Pinot. And the problem is that I'm sure Laithwaites doesn't do this, but it's much more expensive to buy New World Pinot here than it is in California. Mm-hmm. So I was just wildly excited by the fact that it was really good value. So I drank a lot of it. So I love that, and I love this wine that we're drinking, which reminds me a bit of an Albarino. So I love a dry but buttery white wine.
Yeah, this is the opposite of a New World Pinot. This is an Old World Chardonnay. It's La Voûte, but it's also got the buttery fullness, and it's spent a bit of time in oak, so it's got some kind of toast characters to it as well. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I'm loving it. Do you know what I also did during lockdown? I got sent a bottle of Whispering Angel Rosé, which I'm a massive fan of the Real Housewives, and there's a whole Whispering Angel kind of theme on the Real Housewives. And I knocked that back without a care in the world, without barely a thought, not realising how much of it I was drinking. That makes you very drunk. A Whispering Angel Rosé. Spoiler alert.
We do stock Whispering Angel Rosé as well. So we've got another one called Seraphine, which is very light pink Provence rosé. It's lovely. So anyway, I'm glad you're enjoying this because I know that some people can not be a fan of Chardonnay. I was a bit nervous about serving it to you, but I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, we were chatting before, weren't we, about how the fact that I associate Chardonnay with my 20s and going to dinner parties where we all pretended to be more grown up than we were, and stopping off to buy like a $4.99 bottle of newsagent Chardonnay, and that put me off Chardonnay for a really long time because it was that kind of oakiness that just grated against the throat. But this is utterly delicious, dangerously so, because I've got to go and do my event after this.
What was the most challenging part of writing your book?
Well, Magpie deals with some themes that are very personal to me. So I have been through various fertility treatment cycles, and I've also spoken and written publicly about the fact that I've had 3 miscarriages, and the last one of those miscarriages happened during lockdown, at the same time as I was writing Magpie. So the biggest challenge for me was to take that sense of loss and grief and to put it in something that existed in a more positive way. And actually, that's why I'm really proud of Magpie. I'm just proud of the fact that it existed and that I was able to take something meaningful from an experience that might otherwise run the risk of being meaningless, or there being an absence, where actually now there's a testament to that period of my life. But at the same time as saying that was a challenge, it was also incredibly cathartic for me, because I wanted to write about all of those experiences through the lens of fiction, which gives me a kind of liberation, because I'm not writing about myself, but I'm writing about things that I know so many other women and men have also been through, that hasn't necessarily been portrayed in fiction in the way that I would have liked to have read it. So the most challenging part was also the most meaningful part.
That's fantastic. I'm really pleased that you managed to find a way to channel that emotion into something really positive, and it's a fantastic book. So I think you've done a really good job of it. Well done.
Thank you.
And you have your column and you have your podcast.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to try your hand at?
Well, at the moment, I'm trying my hand at adapting How to Fail, the memoir that grew out of the podcast, into a fictionalised TV programme. So if you can do the various twists and permutations that your mind has to do to make that a reality, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm writing a pilot at the moment, which has been commissioned by Sky. And it's a really different set of skills, writing a screenplay. So I'm learning as I go along, and it's a long process, but I'm really, really enjoying it. It's lots of fun.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely to talk to you and to meet you, and it's fantastic reading your book. So I'm looking forward to, well, I say I'm looking forward to getting to the end, but then I think I'll miss reading it. So,
oh, that's such a lovely way to say thank you so much for having me. It's been a delight.
Thank you for, sharing a glass of wine. It's been lovely.
Cheers.